Part 1. In 2020, the whole world stopped. Schools closed, businesses closed, and people closed themselves off from the world. The cause? COVID-19, the deadliest pandemic in over a century. Now, nearly 3 years later, COVID-19 seems to be a fear of the past. A new pandemic, however, is on the rise. One whose roots trace all the way back to the late 19th century. This pandemic has the power to infect people without them even realizing. In fact, it has already infected millions around the world, likely including someone you know. This new disease is called addiction, specifically screen addiction. Part 2. Now, let's go over some examples of screen addiction in the real world. Example 1. In 2019, the World Health Organization classified online gaming as an official mental health disorder. Just a few months later, a 15-year-old boy became the first person to be diagnosed with this condition. In this case, the boy's addiction to video games had become so bad he lost the confidence to leave his house, resulting in him having to take a year off from school. To many, gaming is just a hobby. But when that hobby starts getting in the way of your daily activities, it becomes a destructive addiction. In the case of the 15-year-old boy, this addiction caused a great setback in his life. School is not just about the classroom, but rather the overall learning and personal development that comes around the classroom. High school is a key time for human development. It is where they learn about making social connections and help discover who they are as a person. Similar to high schoolers during the COVID-19 pandemic, this child's development was stunted due to his addiction. Now, even after he recovers, he'll be forever behind his fellow peers. Example 2. One of the earliest games to go viral on the iPhone was Flappy Bird. It's a simple game in which players must direct a bird through a series of pipes. The game was a massive hit, bringing in over 50 million downloads. During its reign, it seemed like everyone was playing. People were quoted as saying they could not manage to put it down. This certainly sounds like addiction to me. Despite this massive demand for the game, it was taken off both the App Store and Google Play Store by its creator, Dong Nguyen. Why would someone making tens of thousands of dollars suddenly cut off their largest income stream that has the potential to change their life? Because he felt guilty over the game's addictive nature. Many suspected that a teen's recent murder was the event that finally pushed his guilt over the edge. When his older brother Jabari beat his high score in Flappy Bird, however, Gary was enraged. He became so mad over the game that he grabbed a knife and stabbed his older brother to death in their family home. The worst part? He was stabbed 17 times, the same number as his Flappy Bird high score. While there's some discussion over the validity of the case, it is a clear example of screen addiction becoming so bad that a boy had to die because of it. Example 3. Developers actively try and keep users coming back in order to maximize demand for their product. They implement many features to keep users addicted, such as dopamine releasing awards, notifications that keep reminding you to get back online, and an ease of sharing content that keeps your friends watching whenever you are. Many of these features are the same ones casinos use to keep thousands of gamblers addicted every day, and it makes sense. From a business standpoint, it is their job to make the most money. For apps, the main source of revenue is ad space. The profits of these ads are directly related to the number of viewers seeing those ads. This means that businesses have a direct incentive to keep people watching as long as possible. But what is good for business is not always good for the consumer. As these tactics continue to be brought to people's attention, the public's opinion of app developers continue to sway. In response, developers are beginning to implement tactics to mask their intentions. TikTok inserts suggestions to stop watching, yet still sends you plenty of notifications as soon as you set your phone down. iPhones now track your screen time so you can monitor your addiction. But from my experience, very few people seem to care. Many of my friends have daily screen times above 10 hours and do not see it as a problem. I myself have a screen time of 11 hours. That being said, it doesn't seem like I'm always on my phone. Similar to drugs, the truth is that many people with addictions know how much they use, they just continue to justify these amounts. They surround themselves with similar people, and suddenly their habits are validated and become normal. So what can developers really do to stop this? Before we answer this, let's look at some statistics. Part 3. Recent reports show that 50% of teens admit to being addicted to their phones. Beyond this, 60% of parents agree that their child is addicted to their smartphone. This carries serious consequences. In Turkey, a study of nearly 400 adolescents showed that multi-screen addiction had a direct correlation to poor self-control and procrastination. Using the Brief Self-Control Scale, or BSCS, researchers were able to show a 30% decrease in self-control when users suffered from screen addiction. This is having serious effects on students across the globe. The same report showing the lack of self-control showed that 95% of participants said their screen use increased during COVID-19, and 72% said their levels of procrastination related to education increased as well. Teenagers aren't the only ones suffering. UK adults spend an average of 8 hours and 41 minutes a day on screens, and check their smartphones every 12 minutes. 34% of people have checked Facebook in the last 10 minutes. 2 in 5 adults, that's 40%, first look their smartphone within 5 minutes of waking up, rising to 65% of those when looking at people aged under 35. This massive internet use comes with serious mental side effects as well. Almost half of the 18 to 34-year-old population said their social media feeds made them feel unattractive, and in 2017, Instagram was rated as the worst social media platform for its impact on the mental health of young people. There's a strong link between heavy internet use and depression, with heavy users 5 times more likely to suffer from depression than non-heavy users. A 2016 study by the University of Pittsburgh revealed that those who use 7 to 10 social media platforms were 3 times more likely to report depressive symptoms than those who use 2 or fewer. Clearly, all these studies show there's a serious problem related to screen addiction that needs to be addressed. Part 4. There are a few things that you can do to address these issues. For one, you can turn off your notifications. This may seem like an impossible task, cutting yourself off from the instant messages of all your friends. But once you try it, you will find that you do not miss the constant bother of checking your phone. Instead, you can focus your attention on your real life, and your productivity immediately improves. Other things you can do is turn your phone on grayscale. This will remove all color, decreasing the dopamine your brain releases when looking at your device. This is a method I have personally used and can strongly recommend. Your phone is 100 times less interesting without color, and you'll find yourself putting it down after just 5 minutes of use. You will no longer find yourself scrolling through your phone for hours every night before bed. Now when you lay down, there is no temptation to grab your phone because you physically can't. Part 5. It is also the job of app developers to reduce the problem at its source. Personally, I've deleted all social media apart from Snapchat and TikTok. So today, we use Snapchat as our example. Snapchat keeps users addicted by giving them notifications whenever their friends send a message. Instead, Snapchat should mute notifications so that you're not constantly getting reminded to log back on and send silly faces to your friends. Another addicting part of Snapchat is its ability to show when someone has viewed your message. This encourages people to respond as quickly as possible because they know the response time is being monitored by the recipient. Instead, Snapchat should disable this feature, so the only thing you can see is that you had sent a message until the response comes in. Snapchat also has a streaks feature, which tracks how many days in a row you and your friend have sent messages to each other. This promotes daily use, and it can be stressful for people to make sure they are snapping every day in order to keep the streak. Finally, Snapchat uses its story feature to keep all of their friends constantly aware of what they're doing. This not only gets people in the habit of constantly taking pictures of their life, but also worsens people's mental health as they compare their lives to the perfect image you post in your story. Instead, users should just be able to directly send pictures in order to prevent the bad habit of social comparisons. Hopefully, app developers will be pushed to create more health-focused and less addictive apps. It is the job of the public to encourage them to do this, or you will see no change. Thank you for watching, and get off your phone.